Another ambitious agenda. Those of you that notice the agenda, let me do a little explaining because I've had quite a few calls trying to ask what exactly we're doing here. We do have 4 bills on the agenda for today. The last one is a hearing only. The first 3 are all committee subs, and I expect to take action either yay or nay on those as we move through our load here. There are also, I went ahead and identified the 3 subcommittees that we appointed earlier this week. The first one dealt with the Georgia Restaurant and Franchise Relations Act, chaired by Senator Summers. He had a meeting this morning at 8:45 and took public hearing and input on that bill. There was a motion made by Senator Brass that the subcommittee make no recommendation to the full committee. There are 2 other subcommittees. One will be meeting immediately following this meeting on Senate Bill 435 and Senate Resolution 533, the Infrastructure and Community Development Act. That's chaired by Senator Gooch, and those bills are authored by Senator Ginn. So there'll be a public hearing on that bill and resolution this afternoon, and we'll wait to see what kind of recommendation that subcommittee may make to the full committee. And the final one is on SB 437 on hemp regulations. Is going to be dealing with that bill. That's a bill Senator Randy Robertson has brought. Senator Albers is chairing that committee. Myself and Senator Anderson and Senator Harbison are members of that subcommittee. It is going to meet Tuesday. I am not certain of the time, but watch the Senate website. That will be posted more than 24 hours in advance. The reason we set up those subcommittees was because of the complexity of the subject matters being considered and to give adequate public input at those hearings before they come before the full committee, because our agenda is going to be quite packed as we go through the final stretch. And as a reminder, the final stretch in the Senate is next week. We have to have bills out of committee by the end of the day next Thursday in order to be on our crossover day calendar, because they have to be second read, and then they got to go to rules, and they got to get voted out of rules. So that's our time constraint. So we're narrowing the scope of what we have time left to hear. So let's get with it today. Senator Anna Vitarte, Senate Bill 444. If you will please come present that. Is he here? I thought I saw you. You can take your choice of the podium or the witness chair here.
Sit in the witness chair.
All right. Mr. Collins, you feel free to join him.
Thank you. The chairman asked me to sit beside him.
All
Thank
right.
you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I think I have record attendance in your committee this year.
Well, you are quite the regular between you and Senator Walker and Senator Robertson and Senator Williams. We are pretty well loaded up with you guys. We're working off of your substitute. It is in our folders along with the original, LC 365754S.
All right.
All right.
Appreciate it. Also glad I can bring the record crowds with the bills we're working on too. So,
Yeah. You don't shy away from controversy.
hey, we know what's good for Georgia. So we're just going to jump in just to the explanation of the substitute that you all have in your folders. Basically in the folders, lines 15 through 17 and 19 were updated. The changes that are in the substitute were made to clarify intent of this bill as introduced and requested. Language in the bill is added to address industry concerns on brand-specific or store-specific lines. 15 and 16. The committee substitute clarifies the concerns that were brought to our attention, again in 15 through 19. Lines 24 through 28 were also added to this sub and remain in the committee substitute to address industry concerns and place a safeguard on the pricing of retail-backed coupons. Off-premises alcohol retailers in Georgia may not provide their customers with coupons that offer discounts on beer and wine and distilled spirits while still selling those products above cost. Retailers are free to adjust their prices so long as the adjusted price does not fall below the actual retail cost. This costs Georgians money and does not allow consumers to maximize their household budget. The lack of coupons serves as no meaningful regulatory purpose and does not promote the public interest. It deprives brick and mortar retailers across Georgia already under competitive pressure from direct wine shipments and lower prices, to create a meaningful way for them to drive business to their establishments and reward local loyal customers. States around the U.S. allow for the use of retail-backed coupons for beer, wine, distilled spirits, and I know that South Carolina and Florida, our neighboring states, do this. Tennessee is working on it. Alabama is always a special circumstance because they're a control state. But this bill would allow Georgians the issuance of retail-backed coupons as a way of creating meaningful benefits to the customers while maintaining the policy requiring retailers to sell products at or above cost. There's been a significant increase in the use of digital coupons. I know since the pandemic, coupons are critical to building customer trust and developing a relationship based on value. Coupons help customers make better use of their own discretionary entertainment and grocery budget, especially during these high inflation times. And I believe we have worked in good faith to address the concerns that were brought to us regarding this legislation. Our goal has been to improve the bill as it moves through this legislative process. The improvements and concerns have been addressed as they are today. I'll also note the Georgia Retailers Association is in support of this bill. And Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you hearing this bill, allowing us to vote, and happy to answer any thoughts or questions. And I know there's probably others that want to speak.
I just want to make sure I understand the change. The only difference I'm seeing is on lines 15 and 16. Are there any other changes in here?
I think that was it.
Can you explain to us what that change is and why?
There you go. Explain it.
Mr. Chairman, Jeremy Collins. I'm here on behalf of Total Wine & More. Thank you for hearing this piece of legislation. So the changes that were made in the original bill was for concerns some in the industry had. The language that was placed in there was a little bit confusing. So the sub addresses from the original one, it said such discount is not specific in any particular brand of alcohol beverage or to any particular, that part was struck. Now it reads this discount is offered at all licensed premises owned or operated by the same retail dealer. Then added was on line 17, such discount is not specific to any particular brand of alcohol or beverage. The only reason there's a sub is that the original bill confused some folks with the language. So Legislative Council worked with us and simplified it to make sure it could not be brand specific. So you couldn't just pick one brand and have a coupon for that, a discount. And it couldn't be location specific. So you couldn't just pick one place and just have your coupon there. It would have to be offered at all locations.
And it has to be at least cost. Can't go below cost.
Yes, sir. And if you look down, that was the second thing that was added. Well, it was the first thing that was added, but with other folks in the industry leaders, the two concerns that were that's line 24. So this was added to the original bill, and that was. The concern, I believe, I won't speak for others, but these were my conversations that we had, was you could, I'm going to make a generic example, the retailer could buy a bottle of Tito's for $10, and then the coupon could bring it down to $8 or $9.95. And this says, in adding that, which it was to address those concerns, it also includes the local excise tax, so you can't get, so that the cost of what they purchase and the tax on top of that, you cannot go below that. Because I think there was a fear that you come in and you do it below, you're a bigger operation, and then it would run some of the smaller operations out because you could just undercut them for a period of time. So that's why that's a safeguard on the pricing for all the industry statewide.
Okay. So what's the complaint about it being brand specific? What if somebody wanted to, run specials on Jack Daniels or Casamigos tequila or pick your poison? What's wrong with applying it just to one brand? You changed it where you originally you could have a coupon to give me a discount on my Jack Daniels for football season. Now you can't do that. You can just give a store coupon to reduce the price, whatever percent or amount or whatnot.
Yes, sir. And that was not in the original proposed legislation, but that was one of the concerns that the other industry, some leaders in the other industry brought to us. And operating in good faith, we added that in there to alleviate their concerns. So that was not in the original, but that was added as a concern that was voiced towards us to try to bring this together and allow this piece of legislation to move on without having heavy debate. So that was not originally, but it's added now to appease other folks.
Got it. Any committee members have questions for the author or Mr. Collins? Senator Ginn, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And my chairman and I share Athens, Clark County, which is a kind of a unique alcohol location. One of the things that I know I've been into meetings where the police have cited people for giving away alcohol to some of our brewers for tastings. The laws are always tweaking in Athens, and we never know exactly what's going to come up. But one of the things that they do have a law on their books that you can't give away alcohol, and as I understand it from this, you can't sell it below your cost. And is there any prohibition from anywhere in Georgia that you know of on somebody doing some kind of discounts or whatever? Because I know that, as soon as we pass this, hopefully we do, said that this is one of those things that, there'll be a jurisdiction out there that has something that we'll have to go explain it to them because, I think state law is still trumping locals.
Would you like me to answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I believe this body or this committee addressed this several years ago when it dealt with, it was the same year, 2 or 3, 4 years ago, the tastings law and then the home delivery passed and is now law. And there was a concern among some members that the tastings would be too big. So it was by ounce. So that would be like an example of free alcohol. And a lot of members didn't want, a full shot or more. So somebody has a tasting and then they get in a car. They could be not used to having alcohol. They could get in a car accident. They could get pulled over. So as far as to my knowledge, and legislative council might have better knowledge, that is the only free alcohol you can give. And it was regulated by this body and a lower amount to ensure people's safety when they were leaving the business that was offering the tastings. And yes, I believe that the state law does trump local ordinances.
All right. Anything further? Senator Harbison, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Usually in these bills, and I was looking at this as it relates to the discount on one page, and I think you clarified it for me, but one thing that is always coming up is about the 3-tier system. And I get comments from people on the other side of that issue about how this possibly affects that, and it represents a crack in the 3-tier system, pecking away at it and that kind of thing. So what is your assurance? Does this in any way approach that, doing away with the 3-tier system? What are your thoughts on that, Senator?
No, I mean, this doesn't even touch it. This is just basically coupons.
Okay, just coupons.
Yeah, I mean, I think any other discussion or, describing of the issue that this creates some sort of industry erosion is not factually true.
I recognize my co-chairman, Chairman Summers.
Senator Avertarte and Jeremy, you might can ask, just briefly tell me how you discount your stuff now without coupons, or do you? How does that work?
You're not right now retail back. So if I'm wrong, somebody can correct me. Manufacturers can have coupons. So I'm making this up. Anheuser-Busch could have a coupon out there, and then the retailer would accept that coupon, and that coupon would go, like St. Jack Daniel's, Tito's, would go back, and that store would recoup that money. Right now in law, retailers can't. This is retail back coupons. So each retailer, and this is not mandatory. So each business has the option to say, hey, we want to utilize this new law, and we want to offer coupons. Right now, the retailers aren't allowed to have retail back coupons. The coupons that you might go and submit are coming from the actual manufacturer, and that's how the retailers get their money back. But they don't have that ability. So, for example, generic examples. You could say, with this, you could say anything ending in a 7 that's a Pinot Noir, is 10% off. And then they would know that doesn't take below the cost of, what they bought it for and the local tax. Anything ending in a 9, Merlots are off, are discounted by 10%. Those are just generic examples of, how, this is how this is implemented in other states. And I don't have the numbers for all 50 states, but the states who I'm representing here, Total Wine & More, they're in 28 states, and 19 of those states have coupons. 2 of our bordering states allow it, South Carolina and Florida. Tennessee is going through a process like we are right now to get it, and then Alabama is it's a controlled state, so they don't even have the option. So it has been successful, and there's a model in states across the country for like a Department of Revenue, to implement if this becomes law, and for them to implement this. I don't know if that's a long-winded way to answer your question or not.
Sure.
Other questions from committee members? Mr. Collins, you were listed as a potential speaker. Have you said your piece or anything?
I have, sir.
further you'd like to
I'll
say?
save the committee's time.
All righty. Well, we have 4 other people lined up to speak, and it's interesting. We have 2 for and 2 against. I'm going to ask you to try to hold it to 5 minutes or less. I want you to be heard, but we have other bills on the agenda as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Michael
Thank
Mumper, Georgia Alcohol Policy Alliance.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Senators. Michael Mumper with Georgia Alcohol Policy Alliance, GAPA. GAPA is a nonprofit. It's really just a handful of public health professionals who want to make sure that public safety and public health are taken into consideration when we address alcohol issues. This is a smart, very smart committee that addresses the economic aspects of alcohol extremely well, and I agree. But public safety and public health are a major concern. So, for example, alcohol is now known to kill over 140,000 people a year. And if that number rings a bell, that's more than are dying from drug overdoses a year right now, is from alcohol. This is from alcohol poisonings, car crashes, suicides, homicides, liver disease, heart disease, and several other chronic diseases. 3,953 of those are Georgians, almost 4,000 Georgians a year. And to go over to the economic side, how does that translate? How do these public safety and public health issues translate to economic issues? It costs the state of Georgia, which prides itself at being the #1 state in the country for doing business, it costs our economy $6.9 billion a year. 72% of that is from lost workplace productivity. It's hard to be effective at work the night after. $600 million in additional health care costs, $600 million in criminal justice costs, $300 million in motor vehicle car crashes. It's not just alcoholics that cause these issues. It's really excessive drinking, because once we've drank too much, we're intoxicated. We're making bad decisions. We're apt to make bad decisions. Our physical ability to react to a car moving is diminished. Our tempers get shorter. Domestic violence goes up, for example. Not everyone, this doesn't happen to everyone. It just, when you're talking about a state of 10.9, 11 million people, it affects a lot. 14.5% of Georgian adults, 1 in 7, are prone to drinking too much. Too much is more than 5 at a sitting, for example, or pregnant women or teenagers. That's over 1 million Georgians who probably are drinking more than they need to at a sitting. Now, if we want to lower that number of deaths, economic impact, the Community Preventative Services Task Force has a series of science-based, proven scientific ways to lower alcohol harms. It includes regulation of alcohol outlet density, not making so many bunched up, dram shop liability, limits on days and hours of sale, which is why every time we want to add a couple hours on Sunday, I'll be here and reminding us that that will increase the amount of alcohol that's drank. Enhanced enforcement of laws prohibiting sales to minors. But the number one way to lower the number of alcohol harms and deaths is to increase alcohol prices, whether that's taxes or whatever. The number one way to lower harms is to raise prices. This bill is doing exactly the opposite. So our alcohol-related harms in the state of Georgia are inevitably going to go up. I've been coming here for 4 years now, and in the last 3 years, this is the most important bill I've had to talk about, because it's going to be the number one way harms of alcohol will increase in the state of Georgia. I would recommend we oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Ben Cowart, Georgia Retailers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Ben Cowart, Vice President of Government Affairs at Georgia Retailers. Just wanted to thank Senator Anna Vitarte for bringing this bill and say that we are supportive of this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us and for being so nice and brief. Mike Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Mike Griffin. I'm the Public Affairs Representative with the Georgia Baptist Mission Board. Thank you for the opportunity to address this issue. In 2021, Georgia Baptist passed a resolution entitled The Impact of Alcohol on Public Health and Safety. And one of the lines says this: whereas it is a known fact that the availability of alcohol leads to the increased sales of alcohol, and that the increased sales of alcohol leads to increased consumption of alcohol, and that the increased consumption of alcohol leads to an increase in the potential societal problems associated with the increased use of alcohol. And so, Georgia Baptist, we have opposed any expansion of alcohol. And, you know, there's a reason why the state of Georgia has pretty definite restrictions on the use of alcohol since the the removal of prohibition, the three-tier system and other types of things were put in there. And it's basically a public health and safety issue. We do believe in personal responsibility, absolutely believe that. But I have an article from 2014 from the Washington Post, and it says, alcohol is still the deadliest drug in the United States, and it's not even close. And you've just heard the data here from Michael. And again, this is not having a discount on the sale of Coca-Colas and Pepsis and Mountain Dews. There's a difference. Alcohol, from a public health and safety standpoint, is a drug. And there has to be responsible use of this. And again, the data proves that availability or accessibility increases sales. I don't believe anyone with the alcohol industry would be for these coupons if they thought it would hurt their sales. But anytime you sell alcohol, there's the potential of more people drinking it. So I mean, it carries on with that. And I mean, again, no offense to you guys, but I don't see any of y'all drinking a beer while you're in here today. There's a reason. It could impair your judgment. And I'm just saying, there's a. Are you drinking one? Okay. What's that got? Brandy in it, or anyway? Just a little humor, a little bit. But I'm saying there's a reason why. You all respect that reason. You know that.
So what's your solution? Cut off sales of alcohol in Georgia?
Absolutely.
Double
I don't
price
think you need to do anything. You need to draw a line and
back
not
to
increase it. No, we're not for that.
Okay.
We're saying let's don't move it any further. I mean, I've been here, I pastored for over 35 years, been down here 17, it's my 17th year. I'm in my 60s, lived most of my life in Georgia. And I remember when I was a teenager and how this thing started, and the industry's always, we just want to do this, that's all we want to do. Yeah. Then the next, you give them an inch, they're going to eventually take a mile. And I've said, and again, I don't mean to be rude, I respect these folks here. I got good friends that drink. good Christian folks. I understand all that, but I've just noticed through the years, it just seems like it just keeps on getting, it's just like it's never enough. And I've said it appears sometimes that it's not going to be satisfied until it's sold 24/7, including lemonade stands, and then we'll be done. But if we
I'm
do
just
that,
sitting here thinking. all right,
but if we
so-
do that, we're going back to pre-prohibition days, which was a wild, wild west of alcohol. We don't want to go that route. And that's why it's so important to have that three-tier system too, which I know this bill doesn't have anything to do with that.
Thank you
Sorry,
for
Mr.
sharing
Chairman.
with us. We appreciate you. Thanks. Stoney McGill, Georgia alcohol dealers. We got the retailers in favor and the dealers opposed. Let's hear it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you today. I'm Stoney McGill, represent Georgia Alcohol Dealers Association. We are the mom and pop alcohol retailers in Georgia. Basically, you've heard the public health side of the concerns. You've heard from the Goliath. We're the Davids in the fight. We're the mom and pops, and we oppose this for a lot of reasons. Generally, this bill disproportionately favors large out-of-state corporations like Total Wine. With their extensive marketing budgets and resources, they can compete local family-owned stores on pricing strategies, including coupons. Local businesses are the backbones of Georgia's economy, contributing significantly to local employment and the state's tax base. Enabling a coupon system could undermine these contributions, as local stores unable to compete may face closure, resulting in job losses, reduced local tax revenues. And I know that the committee has a lot on the agenda today, but I just wanted to get up and say we would like a equal playing field, and this bill creates an unequal playing field for Georgia-based businesses, which are the people that I represent, not the gigantic corporation Total Wine out-of-state businesses. So.
Any questions for Mr. McGill? All right. I do want to recognize President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McGill, is there anything about this bill that would preclude your member base from availing themselves of this coupon-type program themselves?
There's nothing in the bill that prohibits the mom and pops. The reality is that mom and pops don't have the extensive revenue source that this gigantic out-of-state corporation does. So none of my guys are running big advertisements in newspapers. That's not something we do typically. I can see potentially a few of our stores maybe doing Mike Shopper type local things like that, but generally speaking, we surveyed our membership. We had over 145 members respond, and every single person, and we didn't say this is a Total Wine bill. We asked, would you be in favor of retailer offered coupons that you redeem at the store? And you know, everyone that responded was opposed to the concept. And for clarification, manufacturers can do coupons, but those are mail-in rebates. Title III does not allow for anything to affect the price of alcohol at the register outside of discounts for like volume discounts. So if you get a case, you can get a 10% discount. But the little tags that hang on a Jack Daniel's bottle that say, $5 mail-in rebate, those are only to be mailed in, and that money doesn't go back to the retailer, it goes back to the consumer.
Okay, thank you.
Would you refresh us on the number of stores limitations that our current code imposes?
The two-store limitation law?
Yeah, how's that work?
There is currently there is a prohibition of any family or corporation having financial interest in more than 2 packaged liquor stores.
In the state of Georgia?
In the state of Georgia, yes, sir.
So Total Wines, even though they're the big gorilla here, they can only have 2 stores?
They can only have 2 in Georgia. They have hundreds of stores, but they have 3 in Georgia. 2 of them have liquor. 1 is just a wine location. I believe that's right. That'd be probably better for Jeremy to answer.
Yeah, and so how do your little people get hurt if there's no competition that has more than 2 stores? You're acting like they're the little guys against the big guys, but everybody's a little guy in Georgia. You can't have more than 2 stores.
Well, each store doesn't stand alone. Each store doesn't stand alone in their financial interest. They have, they're a gigantic corporation. They have millions of dollars in advertising revenue annually.
Okay. Because our
guys are lucky to have a few $1 million in sales. They have that in advertising revenue.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you for being here with us. It's valuable input from the industry.
Appreciate you, Mr. Chairman.
All righty.
Committee members.
Chairman Anavitarte, you have any wrap-up comments before we take action?
No, I'm good. Let's vote.
Unfortunately, you're not on the committee. You can't even make a motion to pass. But it is now before us. I'll recognize Senator Ginn.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to pass on the substitute that's been presented today.
All right, there is a motion to pass. Is there a second? This is LC 365754S. Is there a second to the motion? All right. Hearing none, we will let this bill remain in the breast of the committee. Thank you all for your testimony today and your presentation, Senator Anavitarte. Next bill on the list, Senate Bill 471, Senator Williams.
Made the motion.
If you don't mind, just take that podium. Yours is going to be quick.
Thank you,
There is,
Mr. Chairman and committee.
One person signed up to be heard on your bill from the Secretary of State's office. Gabe Sterling's here, but if you, I'll help you along a little bit. As you remember, when we were here yesterday, I think it was, there was the suggestion made by the majority leader that these licenses be renewed every 4 years instead of 5 years as provided in your bill. And you were in agreement with that. That's at line 32. It is in editing right now, and or else Sean Marie can do that for us. But since all we did was change 2-year to 4-year instead of a 5-year period there at line 32, I just thought make sure that's okay with you and see if there's any questions or further concerns that might have arisen. Sometimes as people kind of sleep on these things, they think of other problems. Anything else you would like to add to us on your bill, which will be a committee substitute?
No, sir, I think I'm certainly fine with it, and I think this will help the professional licensing division in getting everybody's license and staggering that so they're not overwhelmed at once. I think it'll work great.
Yeah. All right. Any questions from committee members of Senator Williams? Let me ask you, Sean Marie, do we have an LC number with as a committee sub? Or is that something that just comes out of the committee as amended? Okay. So you're presenting your bill with that amendment that I just stated, changing 5 years to 4 years, correct?
That is correct, sir.
All right. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Motion to pass.
Got a motion to pass by Senator Summers and a second by Senator Harbison. Anybody have any further proposed amendments or discussion on this bill? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed, raise your hand. The left hand if you're opposed. Okay. Looks like it's unanimous. Senator, we've had so much fun with you this session. Sorry we won't be seeing you again, I don't believe.
Yes, you will.
Oh, really?
Thank you, sir.
I think we get to decide that, but we'll find out.
Well, on the floor anyway, but I appreciate it.
It's been a delight.
Yes, sir, we've had a good time, and I thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we definitely have. The funeral home industry is in good shape now. We have straightened up. Oh, I'm sorry. Gabe Sterling, you wanted to be heard on that. Are you here? You don't have a problem with it? You all good?
Nice seeing you, Gabe.
Okay. Yeah, how about that? Yeah, it lightens your load. I apologize. I overlooked you there. That is good. That's good. And I noticed that you have the Rules Committee chairman on this committee, and he voted for your bill. That also always portends well for you. All right, we'll move on to Senate Bill 433. We also heard this one yesterday. It's on donor intent, charitable giving. There were several comments that I took to heart. One was you, Senator Ginn, my wingman from Athens. You had concerns with the 6-year statute of limitations and whether there was a drop-dead date at the end. You called it the goal line. In this committee sub that we're working off of LC 365766S. It changed that statute of limitations from 6 years to 4 years, and that's in line with what the Georgia statute of limitations on contract actions are. And shorten that, I would hope that would give you a little comfort. We also had input that was not public testimony, but I had input from several people privately afterwards, and the public is always willing or able to submit recommended changes or suggestions to us by email, telephone calls, letters, however you want to. But I had some interesting comments from the Secretary of State's office, also from an attorney, Robin Miller, who worked, I believe, with Senator Kennedy last year on the revision of the nonprofit corporation code concerning some definitions. From Catherine Hecker, who is a partner at Arnold, Golden, and Gregory, that had some comments on this and its relationship with the Uniform Prudent Management of Institutional Funds bill. And finally, from Nicola Jurek, who's a partner at Jurek and Spratt, relating to how this interacted with our trust code in the state of Georgia. And they were well-received comments, and in response to those, I made two changes. One in the definitions of charitable organizations on line 19. We broadened that definition to make it come into compliance or be identical to the Georgia Nonprofit Corporation Code, and just by referencing that definition in that code to make sure that the definitions of charitable organizations would be the same in this bill as they are in that code. And at line 22, we added charitable trust to make it clear that this would apply both to charitable organizations and charitable trusts. And we used the definition that is used in our code section on trust, our uniform code section for that. It occurred that I was advised that there are a lot of these charitable organizations are established as trusts rather than just corporations or 501c3 or 501c4 organizations. So those are the only changes. We added that, and then when we reference charitable organizations, we add charitable trust as well throughout the bill. And I believe that's what we have. Any questions for me as to that? And I don't see anybody lined up to speak. I don't think. These are just perfecting it. All right, well, I have a motion to pass from Senator Harbison. Is there a second? Second from Senator Kennedy. Any discussion? All right, well then, all in favor of do pass on committee substitute to SB 433 LC 365766S, raise your hand. All right, and are there any opposed? Madam Leader, did I get a vote from you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you a yay or a nay?
I'm a yay.
Thank you so much. Love your support. All right, that passes unanimously. All right, last bill on our agenda has a lot of action here. We do have a committee sub that I received yesterday. I don't know exactly how it changed it, but due to the sort of late arriving sub, we're going to have a hearing only on this bill today. Will be available for action later if we have enough push for it. So Senate Bill 210, Senator Anna Vitarte, you are back on deck. There's a nice summary in our file, and we're working off a committee substitute. It's in your folder, LC 365752S. Did we run him off? All right, well, we'll let, we got several people signed up to speak on it, so we'll let them explain it for him. Bob Sherrier, SELC.
Committee. This is working. There we go. My name is Bob Sherrier. I'm an attorney with the Southern Environmental Law Center. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan environmental advocacy firm based in the South, and I focus on Georgia energy policy. We support this bill for a number of reasons, and I am one of the primary drafters, and I'm happy to walk through it very quickly if that would help the committee.
That'd be great.
So starting with the definition section, an important one starts on line 37 and goes on to the next page. That defines what a community solar facility is. It is limited to 6 megawatts in size in Georgia Power territory, and you'll see on lines 42 through 44 ensures that there can't be multiple ones in close proximity that, you know, are functionally a utility scale project. But I see that the sponsor is here now, and I will stop talking if they.
All right, why don't we do that? Stand right where you are and just hold on. And Senator Anna Vitarte, we were just getting started on your bill. If you can kind of explain it to us, what it does, because we're with a blank page here. We are working off your substitute.
Okay. So I'm just going to start from the beginning. I'll try not to repeat what he literally just said. So basically, just kind of give the high level of why we're doing this bill, just understand the background. Steve's going to back clean up if there's any technical questions or anything like that as we kind of go through this. So this bill is not about one form of energy over another. It's about adding the most cost-effective source of energy on our grid in this critical time of need. As solar supply has increased, solar prices have dropped over 57% the last 10 years since we started with solar under the leadership of 2 House members, Bubba McDonald and Jason Shaw. There are currently distributed generation solar projects that are very close to what we're proposing in this bill in over 80 countries, providing reliable energy with no major issues. There is no cost shift in utility, and the utility is still the main provider. Georgia Power will not lose one customer as a result of this legislation. A subscriber to a community solar project remains a customer of their local utility. The subscriber receives the benefit of the community solar subscription through bill credits that are reflected on their energy bill. A customer will be sized for a subscription that is similar to their household energy needs and pays a community solar business for the value of these bill credits. In other states, you see a 10 to 20% savings on their energy bill through this innovative model. If there's ever a problem or an outage, the utility is still the provider and is compensated through their billing to the customer and solar companies. The Homegrown Solar Act of 24 places safeguards to protect non-subscribers from cost associations with the program. The bill states that an electric utility may recover direct costs associated with the interconnecting and administrating metering services. If you refer over to another House bill, we can go into that later. This legislation also sets bill credit at the retail rate for energy minus the commission approved distribution cost components, and the PSC identifies costs for the rules, the regulations, the fees, and the charges. And that's on page 4 of the bill. This language helps the PSC set the fair value of the bill credit of the energy, but not the additional services distributing the energy on the grill. The Territorial Act, we are amending it. I will say it has been amended before, and I'm sure in the future it will be amended again. It does not protect a utility's market and profit margin, but it also sometimes not good for the ratepayer, and in this case prohibits the expansion of the most effective cost of energy, source of energy in Georgia.
Now, let me slow you down before you go any further. You are changing the Territorial Service Act. That's kind of like the 3-tier system in the alcohol world. Tell us how you're changing that.
Go ahead, you want to talk about that?
Well, make sure this one's on. Bob, do you want to talk about the actual language?
Yeah, absolutely. On line 75 is where the Territorial Act comes into play. This is just a limited carve-out, similar to the size of the carve-out that you did in 2015 in the Solar Power Free Market Financing Act. The way that the community solar facilities and the subscriptions are set up, it's arguably a retail sale of electricity under the Territorial Act. And so what this bill would do is say that this specific setup, as regulated by the Public Service Commission, does not violate the Territorial Act, and that's all it does.
And
Does that mean you can sell it anywhere you want to?
You can sell it to Georgia Power customers, and the credits would appear on their bills. So you would still have a Georgia Power bill.
All right, what about EMC territories?
They are not covered in this bill in front
So
of
you
you.
could not sell it to EMCs?
you could build a community solar facility and try to market it to them, but they're not covered in this act here.
Mr. Butler, do you have something else to add?
Yes, sir. A couple of important things. This is not deregulation. This is still going to be a regulated market, and Georgia Power will be the utility providing that service. They would not lose one customer. We're not becoming another power company to compete with them. This is merely just a bill credit that provides savings to the customer on their bill. If there's an emergency or something goes wrong, Georgia Power is still going to show up at your door. We have to pay for the interconnection costs. Nothing is for free. No one's going to ride for free. And so there's also been talk of net metering in the hallway. There is no net metering in this bill. Zero. And Sean Marie did a great job of drafting this, and I'm sure y'all could ask her more about that. But we made sure that those kind of hot button issues, if you will, we're not here to take those on. We just want to provide savings to the consumer, and we can do that through more community solar.
Didn't mean to get you out of your flow there, Senator Anavitarte, but that was a significant change from current policy, so I didn't need to make sure the committee understood it. Go ahead, proceed.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the end, so we're good. Thank you, Chairman Cowser.
All right.
Basically, I'll just close and just saying, Georgia solar is being done in a conservative way, which is very special. This is a proven model for over 10 years in Georgia and is putting downward pressure on rates thanks to the leadership of the PSC. This bill simply allows community solar developers to operate while the PSC has the ability to set rules for the program. Let's show the rest of the world why Georgia is still the #1 place to do business, and we simply can't do that without more affordable energy. Committee, and Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your favorable consideration of this legislation.
All right. Are there questions for committee members of Senator Anavitarte? I recognize you, Senator Brass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I want to go back to that. You said the co-ops are not in this bill. Is there? I represent a lot of EMC customers.
They are cut out, and so are the MEACs. The reason it's just Georgia Power territory, by the way, because that's the only thing that's regulated by the PSC. This simply gives the developers permission to operate. The PSC is going to set the program, and the prices are under PURPA. So there's not going to be a whole lot of moving or shifting on things of that nature. That's going to be pretty much the outline for them, but the PSC is going to administer the program.
Okay.
Other questions from committee members? All right, back to you, Bob. You want to finish up? I'm sorry we interrupted your presentation, but carry on.
I was glad to be interrupted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple other key points I wanted to hit walking through the bill language, and then I'll be available for questions either now or after the committee if there are any members interested in that. On page 4, we're looking down towards lines 77 through 81. This is where we get into kind of describing how the process will work through the PSC and the credits and how the bill credits are set through a public hearing process at the PSC. And an important point here is that if the appropriate credit amount is set for each class of customers, there's residential, commercial, industrial, if the appropriate credit amount is set, there will be no cost shift. That's something that the commission is equipped to handle, and they handle in rate cases all the time. And you'll still pay your Georgia Power bill. It's just this is where the credit amount is going to be set through this process. On lines 80, yeah, so that's down to lines 85. Okay. On the next page, lines 96, here's another place where cost shift protection appears. And this says that if Georgia Power can show with evidence in a hearing in front of the commission that there is some shifting of costs between customer classes, then this permits them to impose fees for that actual cost. So that's another kind of safeguard there. Starting on lines 110 and beyond has to do with interconnection and treating these facilities fairly. This is a process that is also designed to protect the grid. These aren't just going to pop up anywhere. They have to go through studies to get connected onto the wires. And then on lines 150 through 158, this is where consumer protection for the subscribers is addressed. It gives the Public Service Commission explicit authority to promulgate regulations and rules to protect subscribers and potential subscribers at all steps of the process, It also, provides for creating disclosure forms to be handed out to anybody that's approached about these things.
So these references to the commission are referencing the Public Service Commission?
Yes, sir.
Okay?
And finally, on lines 159, this thing is designed to save people money on their bills. That ensures it right there, that it's set up, designed to be that way. And with that, those are kind of the key moving pieces.
Thank you. We got a question from Senator Ginn. You're recognized. All right.
Got a couple simple questions. First off, 6 megawatts, looking at all over Georgia, just an average, how many acres is that going to cover in solar panels?
Well, it depends. It could be on rooftops, I suppose, but 6 megawatts itself,
6 megawatts, how many acres?
I've heard around 30.
Okay. Now, near as I can tell, they're only going to work in the daytime. Said what's going to happen at nighttime? What's going to happen for those customers that are, getting their power in the daytime from the solar? What's going to happen at nighttime when no one turned the lights on?
It's going to be provided by the power company. And once again, this is going to be part of the overall mix. And so Georgia Power is still supplying power to the business or to the resident. That's not going to change. You get the benefits from solar from the overall input to the grid.
But this is not given any, as I understand it, there's no 24-hour supply. It's not like you're
No, sir, solar can be intermittent, but once again, when you're going into a total mix of energy sources, there is no negative impact.
So
The consumer still has power.
You're depending on all the other ratepayers to make sure that power's there 24/7 for all the other ratepayers that are on the system.
Well, solar brings down the cost of all other forms of energy, so that's, we don't know what's in their black box of how they come up with their rates, but we do know which fuel's the cheapest.
And subscribers will continue to pay their fair share. They'll still have power bills. This just supplements the grid during the day.
And there's a reason that they get savings on their bill because of this.
I mean, I'm a proponent for solar, but I just this right here looks like it's disproportionate to those folks that are taking a discount those certain hours when they're not backing up everything else.
Well, and Senator, also, if there's any kind of fee that is incurred by the power company, they can go back to the PSC, and we obviously have to pay for that, so.
I think currently Georgia Power allows for individuals to do their own solar power on any type of generation. Said anybody can do whatever they want to. They don't have to connect to the grid, and it's there when they want to do that. Why do this as a community solar project instead of an individual?
Not every roof is suited to solar, and some people that are living in multifamily housing also do not have access to this. The Territorial Act kind of prevents you splitting up to multiple apartment units.
How far away would you envision this solar farm of 30 acres to be from a multifamily apartment complex?
That up to 30 acres, it has to be in Georgia Power's territory is the limitation in this bill.
And 6 megawatts is the max.
Yeah.
But it could be anywhere in their territory?
Yes.
I recognize Senator Kennedy for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm trying to understand the flow of funds for this. So the company that owns the solar panels will then have customers that receive through the grid that's already on the system the electricity, right? That's correct. And so at what price are those kilowatts? Would that be the way you would?
That's set by Georgia Power and the PSC under the structure of this bill, so they would determine rates.
Okay.
The idea is that the subscription costs that you pay are less than the bill savings you would receive under this bill credit as set up through the commission process.
Okay. So there's a big if in there, right? Because
No, sir. It's going to be determined by the PSC and Georgia Power, and the rate will be static.
the rate will be static. I guess my question is, I think baked into the comments y'all have made, or at least maybe what I've heard, maybe I heard it wrong, is that there's going to be a savings to the customer because this electricity is sourced from solar. But if you don't know what the rate that the PSC will set it at, how do you know that there's going to be a savings to the customer to begin with?
Well, if they get far outside the retail rate and do something highly unusual, it's a given. The PSC could raise rates if they wanted to. It's just not in their best interest to do so, and they don't have to because of how cheap the source of energy is.
So if you're telling me solar is a cheaper source of energy, then give me some metrics by which the customer can expect his or her bill to be X% less than whatever the rack rate for power is now, if you're a Georgia Power customer.
We do have one of the companies here to address that and talk about how they get savings for the customers. What we can tell you is in every state this has been done, it's redeemed savings.
Okay. What other question, Mr. Chairman? So is part of the idea this is taking part of the load off of Georgia Power?
Well, no, they've already submitted paperwork in October of 2023. They're going to be about 6,600 megawatts short. So it's not, we're trying to help with the energy crisis, candidly. This is something our state could use right now and as quick as possible. But we understand that there's going to be traditional things that we're kind of infringing upon. And that's really the problem. This has worked extremely well all over the country. It's really tradition that we're fighting here today.
So do I understand that, we're talking about the utility, Georgia Power, that they have an obligation to provide reliable energy at whatever the demand is, so that as the production from solar changes, if it gets minimal or marginal, then the Georgia Power has to be ready, willing, and able to provide the backup for the need at any time, right?
They do a great job at it.
Yeah, I would agree. My lights turned on this morning when I got
Yes,
up. I was
sir.
thankful for that. My question is there anything baked into this bill that provides an accommodation to Georgia Power that says, in exchange for this shift from the normal model, that they're relieved in any degree
Yes, sir.
from that obligation?
That was
Okay.
actually,
Where is
I
that?
forget which line in the bill, but it gives the ability for the PSC and Georgia Power to recoup whatever changes or expenses, just like they have now, by the way. They recover all their losses and have a guaranteed profit margin. So that's not changing.
Okay.
Line 96 and line 130 do similar things there at different parts of the process. It allows, after there being an evidentiary hearing, where the company can come forth and say, here's evidence of these shifted costs. If they exist, then they can set fees to recover that from the subscribers, the people in the program, and not from everybody else.
Okay. And so when one of y'all said earlier that Georgia Power is not going to lose one customer, I guess that's because the system doesn't change. You put you're not sending the power directly to the customer. It's going on the grid that Georgia Power already has.
That's right, and we have to pay for as well. There are interconnection costs, there are up-fee costs. Everybody pays in the grid, especially the taxpayer, not just Georgia Power.
Okay. And if there's a problem with the grid, is there any obligation on the solar community to pay for repairs
Yes,
or
it's
maintenance?
required in the bill.
Okay. And where's that?
They
could
can
you clarify
recoup their costs, and that's part of that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I've got other questions, Mr. Chairman, but I know we're.
We'll
running
come by
short
your
on time,
office,
and
sir.
others may-
We're happy to talk.
Others may have questions.
Just
Thank
hang
you.
on for a second, and we'll get to y'all. Senator Gooch, you're recognized for a question.
Senator, one of y'all made a comment earlier, it may have been to you, Mr. Butler, that this does not deregulate the utility business.
No, sir, and that's why we have Legis Council here. They'll tell you this is
I
not a
would love to
deregulation
see-
bill.
I would love to see a diagram of that and standing next to what we do with natural gas today, because it sounds almost identical to the natural gas business. You have Atlanta Gas Light that owns the infrastructure, right, the distribution lines, but you have natural gas companies selling natural gas to customers all over the state.
Yes, sir.
And they're paying a willage fee or some kind of a fee for the use of that infrastructure. So it sounds to me like a first cousin, if it's not a sister to the gas market. So
I'd like to analyze the gas market first.
I
for
would
answer
love
that
to- I would
question.
love to see some kind of a Venn diagram or some kind of a diagram that would show the differences, because they sound very similar. Let me ask you another question. I'm curious if my thoughts are correct. You're asking the government to step in between two private companies and to mandate that we force one company to buy it or to sell electricity of another company's product through their customer base, through their billing system, through their infrastructure. And if that's true, why is that any different than us mandating Delta Airlines selling capacity that's unused on an airplane to a travel agent? And then the travel agency or the other private company would simply reimburse Delta Airlines for the extra fuel that it would cost to transport those flyers on their plane. Does that make sense?
It does, and that's why we do have cost recovery provisions for them. And
But
to your
that's what you're asking us to do, is to mandate 2 private companies to perform those transactions.
no mandate, sir. This is an option. The PSC could decide not to do this. There is no mandate. That's a very good point that you bring up. This is just another arrow in our quiver, folks. We have an energy crisis. This is the cheapest form of energy, and if we want to take the option, we can. But if we don't want to, we don't have to.
But isn't Georgia Power already buying solar from solar farms?
They are, and we do this in 80 counties already through distributed generation projects. It's just, it cannot achieve as much savings as this other program. That's the part. Right now, we're having a problem with rates, and this would drive down rates immensely. And this is just an add-on. It's not a mandate. It's not being forced upon anyone. We're not creating another utility company. It really is just a positive option for Georgians. And it's actually been amazing, kind of some of the things I've been hearing in the hallways, because we're just trying to help.
Thank you. Senator Harbison, you're recognized for your
Thank
question.
you, Mr. Chairman. Along the lines of my two colleagues, and including the chairman, talking about the 3-tier system, and it immediately came to mind as well about how Bell South and AT&T, all that came about, and it's just how would the consumer, the customer, save money? I'm trying to follow that. How would that work? Can you show that to me? And how would the average customer save $20, $30, $10 a month, a week, whatever it would be? And
We have one of the companies that's going to step up to talk about that, because they actually administer the program and have more in-depth knowledge than I do.
Okay, and someone made 6 megawatts, I believe it was. Is that's going to be generally the amount that?
No, sir. That is
generated?
the max capacity because of how the programs are currently structured in the PSC. We wanted to make sure this was in line with as much of what's going on as possible, while also giving you the benefit.
Okay, and the location of your service that's being provided to a particular community, that can be 300 miles away, 50 miles away, 20, how does that work?
It could be anywhere in Georgia Power territory, but I'm going to give you an example. Like right now, you have EMCs in South Georgia selling power up to EMCs in North Georgia for projects. This is already going on. It's
So
nothing
the
new.
current
or different.
infrastructure, you would just access that?
It's just, and it's not even an expensive access. We pay the interconnection fees, and it doesn't cost the power company anything.
Senator, it would be up to the subscriber to decide whether they wanted to subscribe to one that was miles away or not.
And by the way, there's very limited places you can do this. You have to have a good spot for interconnection. It has to be approved by the local government. You've got all kinds of safeguards to make sure these projects are what they are intended to be and to deliver savings to the consumer.
Okay, and like Senator Gooch, I would like to see a chart of that as well.
We're happy to come by your office and explain it more in depth.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. In the interest of time, we've got a subcommittee that's meeting here in just a few minutes. I've got 2 or 3 people I think it's important the committee hear from before we adjourn this meeting for the day and go into our subcommittee. I have on our sign-up sheet Wilson Mallard and Jeff Grubb from Georgia Power. Seems like you need to have your voice heard here. I'm not going to cut you off quickly. We're not going to have questions for you guys, so make your points, whatever your views. You might wholeheartedly endorse this. You might not. We'll be interested to hear.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Committee members, I'm Wilson Mallard. I'm the Director of Renewable Development at Georgia Power.
And I'm Jeff Grubb. I'm the Director of Resource Policy and Planning at Georgia Power, which means we're in charge of generation planning and making sure that we have the fleet that meets our customers' needs. And so I've had 20 years of planning experience at the company. I've been involved with every integrated resource plan since 2010 and have been the lead witness for the company in the 2019 IRP, the 2022 IRP, and the current 23 update that's at the commission right now.
And committee members, I've been working on renewables for Georgia Power for the last 17 years. I've been involved in every renewable procurement that Georgia Power's ever done. I've either designed or supervised the design of every renewable program that we offer right now. And I can say based on that experience and 7 more years experience working in our pricing department before that, this bill, per my interpretation, absolutely would raise rates for customers. It absolutely would shift costs from participants to non-participants. and it absolutely would increase the risk of losing jurisdiction from this body that's done such a good job setting up Territorial Act, Cogen Act, IRP Act, that's kind of the foundation for our market structure. The great regulation that we get with input from stakeholders over at the PSC has produced one of the best market structures in the nation. Balance of cost and reliability, renewable growth.
You don't often get a drum roll.
That's
for your
awesome.
testimony.
I was waiting to hear what we were going to say. It's really important.
We're all paying attention now.
Well, that's good. To finish that thought, the market structure is great. This is a solution in search of a problem. Our renewable growth is the envy of the United States. We're top 10 every year, top 5 last year. Not just Georgia Power, that's also our friends at the EMCs that are growing solar as well. We have a really good market structure. It provides a lot of value for our customers. We see that with all the businesses that want to come to Georgia. We see that with the economic growth that we have. This bill introduces risk of losing that jurisdiction, ceding some of that jurisdiction to FERC, and using lines to have multiple power providers sell energy. I'm happy to walk through line by line and debunk some of the things we've heard here, but I just wanted to get out on the record. We're adamantly opposed to this bill. We definitely appreciate what solar does. There's nobody that's a bigger fan of solar than me. I've dedicated my career to it. But this bill does way more harm than good. For those reasons, Georgia Power is opposed.
Let's leave it at that for today. We will not take action on this until a more thorough review and opportunity for testimony. But is Tom Kraus still here, old buddy? Tom, can you speak for the Public Service Commission? If you want to take that podium, just give us your initial views, if you guys have had a chance to review this.
We have, and I've actually got our executive director. Mr.
Fantastic.
Alistair,
Thought I
and
saw
one of
him
our
out there.
renewable
Okay.
directors, John Kay,
That'd be great.
I've never had a drum roll. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Speak up. We may not be able
Yes,
to
sir.
hear you.
The PSC generally keeps a neutral stance on bills unless it's put forward by the PSC, obviously. And the commissioners have said they want to get to neutral on this bill, but they still have some concerns as expressed by the gentleman at the table today. And when first discussed, this bill only included nonprofits, churches, and government entities, but as written, it potentially includes all almost 2.8 million Georgia Power customers. So as Senator Harbison brought up, there was about customers and worrying about some confusion. And as Senator Gooch also brought up about gas deregulation and some similarities to that, we worry about those 2.8 million potential customers of this service being confused as well. We've had this discussion here for a few minutes, and I'm sure many people in the room are still confused about what this actually means. So our concern at the commission is about a person, you go to their door, it's a door-to-door salesman, you knock on the door and you try to sell them this service for the subscription. The confusion is going to go along with that. So we worry about slamming, which is just a process where people are, without their consent, switched to a service or offered a service that they did not consent to. We see that it's happened in gas deregulation and also in telecommunications deregulation previously. So that's our main concern at the moment. There are other concerns that we have addressed and we will be willing to address more, but that's where we are today, Chairman.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
I
sir.
want to hear one more person, 2 minutes, Tim Martin and Jeff Pratt from Carroll EMC. And I can't read the other one. Give us the viewpoint of at least your 2 EMCs.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time. Thank you, committee members. I'm Tim Martin. I'm president and CEO of Carroll EMC, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm here with Jeff Pratt. He's the president of Green Power EMC. Green Power EMC, they're the organization that's owned by 38 of the EMCs in Georgia, and they go out and procure renewable resources for us, including solar power, lots of solar power. Yeah, we've been very successful with that. We're here today representing Georgia EMCs to share our perspective on Senate Bill 210. Georgia's EMCs serve we serve a lot of the land mass in Georgia and about 4.4 million Georgians. It's weird talking with that drum roll, so I appreciate it. I'll preface our remarks on the legislation by letting the committee know that Georgia's EMCs are not anti-solar. I think you all know that. In fact, we have more than 1,500 megawatts of solar energy online today, which is enough power to provide to 250,000 EMC households annually. Currently, the solar energy that we have represents 6% of our total power mix in 2022. Also, Georgia EMC's solar capacity is expected to grow to more than 2,100 megawatts by 2025. So we're continuing to add to our solar capacity. To put that in perspective, Georgia EMCs have procured 1/3 of all the solar developed for electric co-ops nationally. We're a leader in this. We're the clear leader, and we also provide community solar. Today, there are 17 EMCs that offer some variety of community solar program to their members. On a statewide basis, that means over 57% of EMC members have access to a community solar program through their EMC. Now, as far as our industry's views on Senate Bill 210, Georgia EMCs are united in our opposition to the passage. I'm sure the first thing on your mind is why are EMCs opposed to the bill that only applies to Georgia Power as it's currently written? And of course, it's a great question. We believe the provisions of Senate Bill 210 would do substantial damage to the structure of Georgia's electric market, and ultimately it would harm Georgia EMCs and our consumer members across the state. For solar developers, Senate Bill 210 is the perfect piece of legislation. It allows any independent solar developer to set up as many 30 to 35 acre solar installations as they would like all around the state and get paid in 3 different ways. 1, direct sales of electricity to consumers and businesses. 2, they can sell any excess electricity they didn't sell to consumers back to utilities. They would be forced to buy the electricity whether they needed it or not. And 3, they sell the renewable energy credits earned by the installation. Therefore, under Senate Bill 210, there's essentially no way for a solar developer to lose money. Government policy, we think, should not put its finger on the scales as this bill does, especially when many Georgia consumers would feel the fallout from this significant market disruption. Let's remember that according to the solar industry itself, Georgia is already the number 7 state in the nation for solar. And just a few months ago, in a testimony on House Bill 300, Representative Kelly, solar advocates bragged that this number 7 ranking was achieved without state government imposed mandates or subsidies. However, Senate Bill 210 is both a mandate and a subsidy. Also, I know many legislators have expressed concerns about the proliferation of solar installations and the impact on the availability of prime farmland. If Senate Bill 210 is enacted, this concern will be multiplied because many out-of-state solar developers will buy or lease thousands of acres of land in central or south Georgia to build these solar installations under Senate Bill 210.
Thank you for sharing, and we're going to have to end our testimony with that today. Senator Gooch, where is your subcommittee meeting? Are you down in the Senate Mez? All right, the 4 o'clock Senate Mez. All right, and there's another committee that's coming here now. John Albert's subcommittee on the hemp regulations will be meeting Tuesday at 2 o'clock. And I think it's in this room, but look for the locations. It could be somewhere different. And we will meet again Tuesday at 4 o'clock, and we'll have that agenda out by Monday. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We are adjourned.